been kind of struggling with getting the permission to travel solo. Growing up in a traditional Filipino family and as the youngest and only baby girl in the family, that might be a bit of a challenge. I'm lying. It's a huge challenge. As someone who is almost reaching 30, it's on top of my 30 before 30 bucket list to check off solo backpacking. And I'm going to admit, I will need a lot of help to convince my parents. Yes, and yes. I know I'm almost 30. Well, 27, but still almost 30. But you guys don't understand. We Filipino kids will and always will have to ask permission from our parents. Where are my Filipino kids at? You guys get me. And so I am very grateful for my dear friends from Germany, Switzerland, and Netherlands for stepping up for this video collaboration. They have traveled solo for as young as 15 years old. 15 years old, you guys. Ain't that pretty impressive? I know I'm jealous. But I will not torture you by making you listen to me vent for hours. So let's go ahead and hear this lady's answer the most frequently asked questions as a solo female traveler.
Hi Jess, I don't know if you actually need also an introduction, but eventually here I am. My name is Sarah, I'm 27 years old from Switzerland. I've been backpacking in Asia for 2 years and now I'm living in Berlin and hopefully we will be able to travel soon again.
Good morning Jessa, and thank you for letting me part of this video. Maybe a quick introduction to what I already did. I already traveled solo as an interrail trip, which is a train trip throughout Europe for I think it was 3.5 weeks, and then I did a solo backpacking trip to Thailand for 4 weeks.
First question, is solo travel dangerous as a female?
I think it depends. As much as we would like it not to be, I think that as a female traveling alone, you should be extra careful. It depends on what situation that you get yourself into, of course, and also what country that you are traveling to. Some just are a lot more friendly than others.
Well, I think this really depends from countries to countries because, for instance, I grew up in Switzerland and there I'm totally used to go back home in the middle of the night alone as female, and I know that nothing is gonna happen to me. But then when I travel to other countries, maybe out of Europe especially, I always feel like I have to have 100 eyes around me, and for sure it can happen that when the culture is different and the mindset of people is different, women can be for sure in danger.
Yes and no. It is to a certain amount dangerous because you are a woman, you maybe are not as defensive as a male is, you're not always that strong, and you could be seen as a victim by others. But I actually never really experienced this. Of course, it always depends on the country you're traveling to. Like if you're traveling to countries where a woman is not really seen as worthy or something, it could get more dangerous. But let's say the typical tourist areas like Southeast Asia or Europe, I think in the US it's basically the same. I don't really feel in danger as a woman. You just have to follow certain rules and then you're totally fine. And actually there are way more solo female travelers than solo guy travelers. And I think that says something about how women are not feeling in danger anymore.
How do you make sure you feel safe on your travel?
What I think helps is if you do your research up front and look what areas of the city that you are going to are safest.
So something I make to feel safe usually is always tell everybody where I am. Doesn't matter if it's the morning, during the day or in the evening, there is always someone who knows, which is or my dorm mate or my friends that I text through WhatsApp or the guys of the reception in my hostels. And usually when I travel or when I'm out during the day, I kind of feel safe to travel or walk alone on the street, especially like in crowded areas. Instead, like when I go out in the evening, I always make sure to go out with at least one person more. And if we are all girls, I always make sure to go and come back with all of them, because as I want to be safe and come back home safely, I hope that also I can help them to go back home or to their hostel safely.
I, for example, try not to walk alone at night, because you should never walk alone at night in a city you don't know. I usually try not to get drunk when I'm alone. Like when I have a group of friends, there is a difference, but then maybe just keep it to a beer or two and you're gonna be fine, because you don't want to make yourself a victim. And I think that's basically the number one rule. Don't make yourself the victim. So don't look like you're a tourist, don't wear a lot of jewelry around your head, don't walk around with your fancy big camera and show off. Don't read your map or let your Google Maps read it out loud to you. Put your earphones in and maybe go into a store and look something up, and don't just look like a lost female traveler. Be confident in yourself, like fake it till you make it, basically. And always meet people. Like you can always meet people wherever you are. You never have to be alone unless you want to be. Like stay in hostels. There are also like solo traveler hostels where it's really easy to find new friends. You can go out to dinner, you can make long-term friends there, and it works. I did it myself several times. Oh, and something I still always do is let one of my friends at home know where I am. Like, of course my mom knows my roundabout location, but I have one friend, and I do that when I'm home as well. Like when I go somewhere, or maybe I'm just with one person or something, I just send a quick location. So yeah, better be safe than sorry.
What are some of your strategies for deflecting unwanted attention as a female on the road alone?
So something I do to avoid unwanted attention usually is wear a ring and pretend to be married. Or also avoid eyes contact. Eyes contact, I don't know why, but for sure it always gives other people an opportunity to start to have a conversation with you, even if you don't want to. So for a person like me that I love to watch around, and most of the time I even smile people like I always try to wear glasses, so black glasses, so at least I can watch everywhere around me without building up that eyes connection. And eventually, if the case I feel a little bit unsafe, I just start to walk really roughly and watch down on the street. This really helps me to, I don't know, I give out the meaning that I don't want to be bothered, and usually people understand this and they don't start to talk.
Yeah, as I said, don't wear a lot of jewelry. Also, don't wear clothes that are inappropriate. Like, of course, if you're in Thailand on the beach, you can wear shorts, you can rock around in a bikini, but I rather cover too much than too less. So don't walk around in your most sexiest clothes if you're, I don't know, on the streets of a Muslim city, for example. And just try to integrate into the culture you're going to. I think that's also one of the main things. Also, I think if I never been to a Muslim country before, but if I go, I would also cover my head, like my hair, because women there just do that. We try not to walk around like the typical tourist. As I said, don't use Google Maps on public streets, like so other people can hear it. Don't walk around lost. And yeah, I think that's it.
Also, what kind of cultural norms they have over there? Is it normal for them to see a woman walking alone in the streets, or are they used to having them having like a chaperone? Or is it a very modern city you're going where it is normal then? Just keep it in mind where you're going and that you are a guest in that country and that city. What do the locals do over there? If it's something that they're used to in the country where you're headed, then it's of course a lot safer than if they're not used to it and you are going there alone and you are going to be the one that sticks out as a sore thumb.
How do you deal with loneliness? Have you found it difficult to talk to others?
So honestly, I never really felt lonely while traveling because I love to go in hostels to sleep or do volunteer. So I started to live with locals as well, and I built up so many connections. But of course, it's happened that sometimes, maybe before fall asleep or on a bus ride journey when you're alone, you feel kind of lonely inside. But something that really helps me is reminding me the fact that we are in 2021 and there is FaceTime, there is Zoom, there is Skype, whatever we think. Our friends and family are all in the other side of the screen and we can really watch them. And as well as I think that traveling's really train our, our strength, our mindset, and loneliness is a part that we have to go through while traveling that really build up the confidence in ourselves.
So loneliness is something that definitely is coming to you when you're traveling solo, but I think it's part of the whole journey, and I love it actually at times, because you really have the time to be on yourself for the first time. Like, you're not always distracted by others. You can also see what you actually like, what you don't like. So if you're feeling lonely at times, it's something you choose because there are always people around. And sometimes it's good to be lonely to really embrace not being lonely anymore, if that makes sense. Have I found it difficult to talk to locals? Yes and no. Of course, it always kind of depends on the language you're speaking. I always try, before I go to a country, to learn at least some basics of the vocabulary, learn some small talk sentences so I can at least start a conversation. Like, it sometimes is harder. Like when I went to Spain, I was living in a room in an Airbnb of a Spanish family. And the first 2 days were kind of hard because I had to get back into my Spanish. But once we got there, we had like, I don't know, hour-long conversations by breakfast, and we never were really fluent with anything. Like, though they were not really fluent in English, I wasn't really fluent in Spanish, but we kind of came along really well. And I really loved my stay in the end. Usually I experience that locals are super happy if they see you make an effort to learn the language, they see you want to talk to them, and I can just recommend to learn a bit of the language first and then just get into it. Also, sometimes when you're solo traveling, you don't come around asking locals for help because you are alone. You need to ask people to help you, which is a good thing because you automatically get in touch with locals, and most of them are really interested in like, what are you doing here as a solo female traveler and all that stuff, so you get into talking. So of course it's hard if you don't know any of the languages, but you get through with it, I would say. I met people who didn't know English when they started traveling and they got along super well. So everything's possible. You still have your hand and your feet. You can talk in whatever you prefer.
Do you ever think to yourself, shit, what am I doing with my life? Shouldn't I be back home now and own an apartment, house or something? Maybe married and have a kid or two?
So sometimes it's happened that I think like, Sarah, you are 27, you are not married, you don't have kids, you don't have a house, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm living my life. I actually have no regrets about my life and I know what I really want, and travel makes me happy. I know that society tells us that in order to live a worth life, we should have a safe job, a family, we should get married, and so on and so on. But we don't all want the same thing. There are people who really want it, but there are also people who don't want it, and there should be respected for their choices. Sometimes it's hard to really, go against what we are supposed to do, especially if maybe family and friends believe that our dreams are not okay. But as long as you have a dream and your mind is out of the box, go for it. Keep yourself up because you are the only creator of your life and your own happiness too.
Actually, I only have those feelings while I'm home, when I see my friends getting married, buying houses and all that stuff. Sometimes I do have those feeling of, is this really the right thing to do? But it only lasts for like 1 second, because afterwards I'm like, this is my dream. I want to travel the world, and this will last me so much longer. Like, I have this mindset of first, like, money's always coming back, and second, like, will you be at the end of your life watching back to the cool house you bought, or the car, or the TV, or will you be looking back to the travels you had while you were young, or not even young, while you traveled your whole life? Will you look back to that, or the cool new TV you bought? And I think the answer is really obvious, at least for me. And also, I'm not sure if I ever own an apartment or a house, because I'm kind of really not meant to live in just one place.
Enjoy your time and don't worry about being on a timeline. When you see all your friends settling down and buying a house, it's okay for you not to be at that point right now. Just enjoy your life. You are never going to be as free as you are right now, without any obligations, any mortgages.
How do you convince your family and friends to chill out and let you travel alone?
When I was 15, I decided to go to Spain and live there for half a year for my internship. So I think that my family and my friends were not used to me being any different. I think my dad still can be a bit protective, but he just tells me that, you know, watch out, make sure that you are safe, and just keep in touch with the home front. I think that helps ease their mind. And of course it also helps if you have a YouTube channel where they can see actually what you are doing and what you're up to, so they can feel a bit like they are with you over there.
Good question. First of all, my friends knew it really long that I had the desire to travel the world. My parents always knew that I liked traveling, but to be honest, I was really afraid telling them about my plan to travel the world and all that stuff. What I did with my interrail trip and my backpacking trip in Thailand was actually I bought the tickets first and then I told everyone, but I also explained like how safe it is. Like for interrail, it was in Europe. Like Europe is considered as a really safe place. For my first trip, I already booked everything in advance, and I looked also for solo hostels and all that stuff, and I made that clear, and also just explained just what I said before, like what I do for precautions, how I acting there, and that worked. Like with my parents it was a bit tougher, like I had to explain. Of course they worry a lot, but I explained it to them and then it was fine. Like also I explained to them like that this is just a big desire of mine. It's a dream I have for so long, and basically I also told them I would do it anyways. And in the end I think your parents want just the best for you, and they just have different ways of telling you. Just talking to them and like showing empathy for their position as well, showing them that you understand their worries, but also making clear that you're still going to do that and how you're gonna do that, explain to them how it's safe, and yeah, in the end it is your decision, right?
So my friends and family always knew that I love to travel, and I'm happy only when I'm on a plane somewhere around the world, so they're used to. Then when I started to travel as backpacker, I started in India, and then my grandparents, they were really scared about it because in Europe we always heard not nice stories about India, so they were really worried about it. But then when I was there and I was calling them every day, telling them the experience I was making, they were like, Sarah, we are so proud of you. For sure, family and friends will be always a little bit worried depending on where you are in the world, because you never know what's going to happen, right? But I believe that if they support you, that's the best things. And I had to believe that they don't have to stay between you and your dreams, but they should be really a form of support for you and the life you want to create.
As someone who is planning her first solo long-term travels, what is the most important bit of advice you could give?
So there are two things I wish I knew before I start to travel. The first one is that it's super possible to travel extra cheap and on budget by volunteering, and in exchange have a place to sleep and 3 meals per day. Like this, you can really like cut down the 80% of your whole travel experience. And the second part is that it's possible to travel long term. This is something I really want to share because it's something that really keeps me back of traveling long term for so many years. I was thinking that it was impossible because it was hard, because it was expensive, but it's not. And you have this big wall of fears in front of you that in the moment you step out of these fears, you really see that it wasn't such a big deal and you can do it for so much long time. So if you're planning your first solo long-term travel, there are 3 tips I really want to give you. The first one, bring with you as much less as you can. Really, because your backpack will be your whole house. If you have a backpack who weighs like 30 kg, it's gonna be a hard journey. Instead, what you can do is really bring as less as you can, and if you need something, you can always buy. The second tip, bring with you a sleeping bag, like a light one that you can always like fit inside the bottom part of your backpack, because you never know in which kind of dirty bed you're gonna sleep. And the third tip is to have a travel diary where like your travel friends can sign it and you will have amazing memory inside.
Everything is half as bad as it sounds. You're gonna figure it out, everything, by your own, by others. You don't have to worry too much because everything somehow falls into place. You grow so much. You have no idea how much you grow. When you're traveling solo, just go for it. Don't wait for it. Don't wait for others to join you. Just go for it. Do what makes you happy. Because I actually waited over 2.5 years to do that. As someone who is planning her first solo term travels, what is the most important bit of advice you could give? First of all, just go for it. Don't worry too much. There will be ups and downs for sure, but you're gonna grow from it. You're gonna survive. Just make sure to stay street smart. Like, don't walk around alone at night. Don't make yourself a victim. Find friends really fast. You don't have to be alone unless you want to be. Believe in yourself. You got this. Really. Embrace it.
Yeah, I think it's really good for your self-development and also getting to know yourself to spend time alone and really be on your own. Not having anybody to fall back on in different types of situations abroad. It also grows your self-confidence because you notice that you don't really need anybody else to fix your problems. You can do it all by yourself.
And so there you go. Great job, ladies. You girls nailed these questions. Thank you again for being part of this video collaboration. And for those of you who are watching, make sure you check out these ladies' amazing travel contents on the description down below. And if you are someone who wants to give your family and friends a peace of mind as you travel solo, make sure that you show them this video. Thanks again, you guys, and make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and click the notification button for more videos. Bye!